mega first impressions, I would say not terrible, but this is still, from a handling dynamics and force feedback perspective, absolutely not capturing the joy of the original Assetto. It's like one of those pizzas from a local pizza place in Middlesbrough, maybe, where it's a little bit shoddy. It's not terrible. You're hungry, you've had a few drinks, you eat any pizza that's given to you, but it's not an fine Italian restaurant pizza like Pizza Assetto Corsa. It's kind of like the dodgy pizza that you're having because you're drunk. Condolences to everybody here watching the video. Subscribe so you can then enjoy unsubscribing. Click the like button and disagree with me in the comments section. Huge thanks to all our channel members, supporters, donors and people that allow us to be this weirdly obsessive about force feedback. Without you, I wouldn't be here. Really appreciate it. 0.6 brings with it some new cars: Audi, Ferrari 296, Ferrari GTO, Ford Mustang, Lamborghini, Countach, Porsche 911 GT3 R Rain Sport, Sebring International Bumpy Raceway at a runway. It is an airport track. I don't think the airport's active anymore. UI improvements, though the new UI improvements are still somewhat arbitrary and a bit weird. Audio improvements, I like the sound in this game, and a bunch of gameplay adjustments, some tire model adjustments and physics adjustments. Let's see if things have drastically changed just driving this Porsche Cup car from the previous version. Really like these panning shots though here, the pit stuff. The thing is with Evo, right? There's loads of really nice attention to detail, like the animations here, the driver putting on the helmet and adjusting the head strap, and like stuff that you'd notice if you're at a track and drivers doing stuff, or if you're in a car yourself, fiddling with your hands device and things. These little panning shots, the lighting, there's really good detail in this game. Could do with running a little bit faster, but it's worth pointing out there's loads of stuff in this that looks absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at this shot and look at that view of the Brands Hatch commentary area and the pit lane. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Absolute. This is literally first impressions. We've not tweaked anything either. Here we go. Go. Will the AI do anything crazy? Will it be a happy time? Has the force feedback significantly changed? Okay. Looks nice. It's hard for me to judge performance because we're running on a really low end 5090 64 gigabytes 9950 X3D, so you know it's really hard for me to judge performance on our budget system, so won't really mention it. But it seems to be running very smooth for me in this situation with all this AI. It does look really nice actually. The lighting in this game is really nice. I quite like the sound as well. Handling wise, still seems to have that sort of springiness in the centre. No immediate you know, the force feedback still feels super vague on this, not particularly connected at the moment. We could probably turn the force feedback strength up though. Car hasn't done anything crazy though, handling wise. We're not really pushing now, but yeah, the force feedback straight away, really a bit vague still. I could do with turning it up a little bit, but yeah, that huge like centre area of mega vagueness, which is terrible, which we've even managed with the LMU FFB app. We've managed to make LMU feel really nice and direct and immediate, and you can feel the load of the tyres and everything, as you can with IR FFB as well. But so maybe we need that kind of an app for this game, because it seems like Kunos don't really care about force feedback. AC1 feels absolutely superb, immediately connected. That's what you need, really, if you want, you know, if you actually want to drive naturally. So yes. Anyway, let's focus on the handling of the car, though. We haven't had any mega like crazy spin stuff happen. Let's turn the TC down. Do you know what? I'm going to have to turn the force feedback up here. I don't think I've bound force feedback strength. Force feedback gain, there you go, it's on pretty low, so let's turn that up. The car specific is separate to the overall gain. You can actually change the gain, I think, in the game, but this is the overall one. Dynamic damping's off, dynamic gain, all that's, just keep that off, that's good. So yeah, we'll put this on here, and yeah, there we go. So that should just turn it up a bit. UI seems reasonably snappy, which is good. There we go, it's a bit tighter. That feels better. I think we had it on so low that we were losing a lot of detail. That's a bit better. Right, so the car seems very seems nice and controllable. It just seems seems a bit unresponsive to the steering input. I don't know how much of that is the physics or the force feedback. I think it's the force feedback. It's just so vague. But the actual the car's turning in really nice on the brakes. It's one of the weird things with Evo. The behaviour of the vehicles once you get on the brakes is really quite nice. Like the cars really like lock into the corner and really turn in nice, and they also have quite nice lift-off oversteer. Especially what you'd expect from a Porsche, right? You know, it's the sort of characteristic of a Porsche is if you come off the gas, it turns in. Get on the brake, it turns in quite aggressively, and then maybe pushes quite a lot on the throttle. It depends though, but you know what I mean. So on the brakes, it sort of hooks in nice, but then there's this like general vagueness to it. Maybe a Porsche on the throttle, that general vagueness on the throttle might be realistic in some ways. You could probably argue. I don't know. Don't really care. It just feels very disconnected. But much from what I remember driving this car, we need to drive the Ferrari 2004. That's probably the best pointy vehicle. Very progressive on throttle sliding, which is nice. Keep moving the brake bias back a bit. Let's put TC on 1, because that was a big problem previously with the MX-5 would be a good test. Big problem was you got on the throttle, turned a bit too much, and the rear just rocketed around, you know, and you could counter steer it, but not, you know. Seems to me, this seems a lot easier to drive than the previous version. It's been a while for me since I played this. I've been playing a lot more AC1 and LMU. Suspension feels really nice going over the bumps and stuff. And actually, force feedback wise, the track sort of understeer vibration, curbing, road texture bumps, that's quite nice. Seems to handle the handling actually. Putting aside the force feedback, the actual progressiveness of the vehicle is really nice. Like, it seems way more progressive, especially just sliding in there on the brake a bit too much. Getting the back out a bit. Yeah, nice bit of agility there. Turning it in. Drove into the back of him. Very intuitive physics. And actually, as I say, playing a lot of LMU. Well, we spent like 5 hours on LMU today. You get a nice. This feels like it's got a little bit more granularity. There isn't necessarily, but like just it feels like there's a bit more granular response to the brake and how the car's turning in on the brake, which is quite nice. AC1 really has that as well, which is quite nice. Just a really nice sort of positioning of the car on the brake. iRacing actually, weirdly, does that quite well. AI just murders me. As long as you're under the limit in iRacing, you get a really nice feeling, or like car positioning and being able to manoeuvre the car on the brake and even the steering under the limit. As soon as you start pushing onto the limit, the tyres get warm. iRacing physics totally break, which means if you're trying to drive fast, you try to drive at the limit, the physics are terrible in iRacing. But under the limit, iRacing is actually quite nice and responsive, which I think a lot of people like, and I like that actually. And I like that with this as well. I'd say over LMU, that handling characteristics is nice. That was favourable. I'd say it's pretty favourable. A little bit sluggish. It's a Porsche Cup car. We need to try the F2004. Right, here we go. This is the real test. F2004 is one of the best cars in the original Assetto. Okay, we lit up the. I don't know what the TC's on there. We just flop the rear. Not much force feedback for the rear coming out there. again, the force feedback just a bit vague in the centre. Lighting looks nice. It's a little bit contrasty, but I'm sure we could adjust that. The AI is doing the Kunos pit manoeuvre thing on me. So my field of view is a bit high here, but just ignore that, guys. This is way more progressive than what I remember with the previous version of the game. And that's quite... Oh, why is he going so slow? It does feel a bit like sort of on rails here, a little bit pokey. Like the thing that makes AC1 so nice to drive is that you have this zone of neutral steer, or you could call it combined slip, where all four tyres are in on the limit and balanced. It's basically when you're drifting, not just a power slide, but when you're holding the slip. With it, the AI is just pitting me there. AC1 does that really, really well, and that's one of the reasons why it feels so good to drift, but also if you're racing or just driving race cars and you're trying to balance at the limit, you're trying to hold it in that neutral steer state, and then the cars have like an extra layer of poise to them, and that's what makes it so compelling and fun to drive and so nimble around the limit. Again, this feels more progressive or easier to drive than what I remember in the last version, but it seems to lack that neutral poise, like the crab walky thing. I think combined slip is probably the best way to the term. It's either doing like an oversteer, snap oversteer that's you can catch quite easily, but you're not ever holding the slip, and that's what makes AC1 so joyful. And also Live for Speed, also Automobilista 1. It's that holding a few degrees of slip, balancing the throttle, balancing the steering, and using that to your advantage whilst also racing. This seems to feel like it's either in a bit of like a weird stuck oversteer or completely locked in. or yeah, just like that snap oversteer, just counter steering it. It's like brain dead counter steer. I'm not balancing. And so the meta then turns into a sort of robotic rote memorization. So it still seems to have that fundamental, what I'd say is a pretty big physics hole, even if the suspension, I think the suspension in this is really nice. Sounds really nice. This is running really nice. AI's actually not done anything totally mental. That's good. The general grip levels and stuff all seem really nice, but that lack of the neutral steer state, and also this huge dead zone in the centre of the force feedback. Once you're turning in and moving, you can feel the load changing for the tyres, but there's no feel for the crucial parts of the force feedback, like the actual poise of the vehicle for you to then balance it. But maybe that's because it doesn't have the neutral steering, it's missing the physics. So LMU Le Mans Ultimate is a bit like that, and it doesn't really have that good a neutral steer aspect to it. I don't know if the correct term is combined slip, we'll call it combined slip. But with a GT3 car with TC, it kind of tries not, the car will try and just keep it in a locked in thing anyway. But at least with the LMU FFB app, which you can get a profile for it by going on our Patreon for free, and you'll see what I mean. With that, you can actually feel stuff immediately, and that actually somewhat makes up for a lack of feel. But yeah, this is, it's weird. Like when you're on the brake and you're turning, this actually has okay force feedback, but when you're on the throttle and when you're initially in the straight, useless. It's just completely joyless to drive from a force feedback perspective, and the lack of balance there. It just turns into robo driving. There's definitely like a weird springiness to the force feedback in this game that's independent of what seems to be happening with the physics. It feels like a canned spring. This AI squeezing me on Druids. It's like a canned elastic bandiness. if you had a lower end wheel, that's going to feel terrible. I mean, I'm using a really nice DD wheel, and even that, it still feels just like... just feels lacking dynamics. It's just so disconnected from what is probably actually going on. Like, I keep mentioning it, you get this with IRFFB app, you get this with the original Assetto Corsa force feedback, even Automobilista 2 force feedback, and the LMU force feedback. You feel directly connected to the vehicle. The physics could be better or worse or whatever, but the force feedback's totally connected all the time and really helps you drive. Like, this is just... honestly, it feels really... it kind of ruins the game, I think. I guess if you don't care about force feedback, then fine. Car this is way more stable than I remember the last version. I think they've gradually improved this MX-5 with each update. It doesn't seem to be just the back end's not like unhinged on the throttle. Yeah, turns in quite nice on the brake. It's an MX-5, you know. You wouldn't expect it to be the most insane vehicle in the world to not spin the rears on, even if you gave it a bit too much throttle. So I know it depends on, like, an MX-5 can be quite active, quite nimble. You see, watch MX-5 racing, it's pretty insane. But you know, on the grand scheme of things, that's quite nice. Give it a bit too much brake, get the back out, grip comes back straight away as you'd expect. Very, nice and predictable. So I think the handling actually seems a lot better now. Really quite nice handling, you know. On the scheme of racing games, this handling is like... I don't think it's any worse than like LMU. Some ways better. In some ways better than AC1's handling, like suspension and response of the tyre rebiting back and things, and... a million times better than Gran Turismo and a million times better than iRacing, but the lack of that neutral state, the neutral steer, combined slip, again, it feels like it's either rotating in sort of like a floppy way or completely locked in. But it's not insta-binning you. Before the rear would just, like, you go on the throttle out of that final corner, and it was like the tyres were made out of plastic. It was totally insane. So, it feels like quite a nice bit of depth when you get on the brake and going into the corner, and getting the nose into the corner is nice. In some way, I say that. Well, that's me downshifting too fast. Definitely feels very weighty. I think people equate that to great force feedback and feeling nice because they like the sense of things feeling heavy, but total lack of detail, so it's a bit of a distraction. But yeah, at the moment, I think the only thing that really feels really nice is that on the braking, getting the nose in and how much you can control the car on the brakes. But it's like you're well within the tyres. Doesn't have the playfulness at the limit that AC1 has, which I think is what makes that so fun to drive. And I would argue, personally, that's the kind of thing that makes real cars really fun to drive. Obviously, not all cars are really playful at the limit. Cars are different, tyres are different, track conditions are different. But it just, you know, it lacks the kind of the sort of play in the rotation. It's all very it's all very kind of muted. Mega first impressions, I would say not terrible, but this is still, from a handling dynamics and force feedback perspective, absolutely not capturing the joy of the original Assetto. Part of that is the lack of neutral steer or controllable combined slip, and that sort of, it's not full-on drifting, guys, but you know, when you're balancing slip at the limit, just doesn't seem to be there properly. A large part of that as well is the utterly, like, huge springiness, mushy force feedback. We're not running any damper or anything like that. It's me downshifting too aggressively. See how much more catchable it is now. Force feedback's just terrible. Like, I don't know how you can go from AC1 and then ACC's force feedback was absolutely terrible as well. And that also, ACC had a similar weirdo physics issue. AC Rally also has this physics issue. Doesn't seem to do combined slip. Sorry for repeating myself a billion times, but it's such a huge thing. I don't know why more sim racers don't mention it. Maybe on a technical level there's combined slip going on, but from a perceivable level whilst driving, yeah, this just completely still lacks that crux that makes AC1, Live for Speed, AMS1, Richard Burns Rally absolutely amazing to drive, and what I would argue also would make, well, does make real cars nice to drive. I think it'll be interesting to see with more online racing. Be interested to see what performance other people get from this and how well it runs for other people. Don't think it's terrible. Great progress. We're not at 1.0, but yeah, this is not lighting up my Assetto Corsa pickle, but not terrible. Not terrible. Nice progress. We'll be live streaming the update. We'll try some more stuff. We'll give it some more time. We'll give it more of a fiddle. This is literally at first impressions, but there you go. I give it a. It's like one of those pizzas from a local pizza place in Middlesbrough, maybe, where it's a little bit shoddy. It's not terrible. You're hungry. You've had a few drinks. You eat any pizza that's given to you, but it's not an fine Italian restaurant pizza like Pizza Assetto Corsa. It's kind of like the dodgy pizza that you're having because you're drunk. But it's not the worst pizza shop. That's it, guys, though. There you go. First impressions. Let us know what you think in the comments. Join us in the live stream. We'll be live when this update goes live. Thanks for 505 for sending us this version early. Appreciate it. Till the next one, happy tea drinking. Take care. And goodbye.